Hi, I'm Traci DeForge, and I wanted to pop in here because I've just been thinking a lot about how this industry has evolved and grown in such an exciting way since I entered into it in 2015. So, just to give you a little context, when I launched my first podcast journey to there were less than 350,000 total podcasts in Apple Podcasts at the time. And now there's over 2 million plus and growing every day. And that number is speculative because it could be even more than that depending on the resource that you look at. But I think what I really have been wanting to share that's on my heart is that the podcast industry has grown exponentially, of course. But what is so incredibly important to note about that growth is that a lot of times it's attributed to the podcaster, the person who is literally behind the mic and who is literally creating the content and showing up and doing the show. But what's underestimated and a lot of times undervalued is the role of a podcast manager in supporting that host. The biggest and most successful podcasts are successful because they release consistency, they have really good audio and video quality, they have a strong marketing strategy that's executed by somebody with high attention to detail and passion and commitment to the show, and fundamentally works behind the scenes to manage all of the T's, crossing the T's, dotting the I's of what really makes that podcast shine. And a lot of times people only see the shiny parts and they don't really understand that without a very well qualified without a very well qualified podcast manager behind the host, that podcast may not even exist after a handful of episodes. So if you're out there hitting the path, being in the trenches, supporting podcasts as a podcast manager, yay, you. And if you are if currently maybe a VA or you really love podcasts and you're exploring what that could mean for you as a career or a business opportunity, I'm here to tell you that the days of podcast managers being underrated or overlooked are over because every day in my primary company, Producer Podcast, we are getting questions about where to hire the best podcast managers or talking about wanting to build a team in house and how important it is to find the right podcast manager because it is a very specific skill set. And that's why it's important to learn your craft, hone your craft, not just throw it up on your website as an additional skill, but really get behind the mechanics of what makes podcasters and a podcast successful and become that driving force behind successful shows. I was interviewed by a podcast yesterday. I was a guest on a podcast, and he was really just exuberantly talking on and on about his team. And the one thing that he was expressing a tremendous amount of gratitude for was the fact that he had a highly skilled, very professional podcast manager that he could rely on. And as a result of that, he felt free to only be have to focus on showing up and recording the content and creating a show that helps him grow his business. But I just want to say that he is just one of many, many podcasters that are already existing that need that level of support or have that level of support. And there's so many more that need that level of support. And then also, too, like it's such a growing role. Like companies are looking to have podcast managements on their internal teams, and freelancers who are really buttoned up and buttoned down with their podcast management systems are being able to grow their own businesses on their own terms. So it's just something I'm really excited about. And I'm hoping that you're excited about it too. I mean, being in this group, I think, is just such a great first step to connecting with other people, learning from each other. And I guess the one thing that I just want to say is, wherever you are, start where you are, and just know that this pathway that you're beginning on, or if you're already on it and you're growing in this way, keep going, because this industry is not slowing down, and the need for really good qualified podcast management support is only growing even stronger, because especially in the business growth podcasting space, because business owners are so busy and they want that podcast and they want that consistent release schedule and they want all of the things that support the podcast, but they don't have time to manage it on their own, or they've tried it and it didn't work and their podcast faded. So we're a team of people that are changing the world one voice at a time. So just keep going.